Alrighty, with everything happening over on Twitter, a lot of people are asking me to knock out some Doge technical analysis. It's not really something we cover a lot on the channel, but it is something that I keep up with because I think it is rather important for the meme coin market. So I want to give you all an update on what I'm seeing from a technical analysis perspective on Doge and why I do think that under the right circumstances, this thing could make a move of about 100 to 150%. So with that said, let's not waste any more time and let's get into the video. So what we can see is that Doge has had a rather poor performance over the last year. Okay, and I'm not trying to, shit on it or anything, but the majority of the market was moving upwards while Doge was really going sideways. Now, the reason being is not really necessarily a technical thing. I think it's more of just the fact that Doge is a catalyst-based crypto, and whenever it has the right catalyst and whenever it has the right, opportunities, it will see growth, but it doesn't have just enough volume, it doesn't have enough core holders, it doesn't have enough ecosystemic growth to actually contribute to the price doing well, and that's why it's one of those slow movers. We've also not really seen the money flow into meme coins just yet, and so of course because of that, Doge really hasn't done much, honestly. Now let's talk again though about a technical perspective, because although it has had a rather poor performance, it does seem as if it could be setting itself up to have a strong performance again under the right circumstances. Now I do want to let you guys know you can trade Doge and all of your other cryptos over on Margex. You don't need to KYC, meaning you don't need to tell them any of your personal information. You don't need to use a VPN from anywhere in the world. You can simply just start depositing on leverage if you'd like, cross or isolate it. You can set take profit levels. You can set stop losses. You can do all of the things that you need whenever you're trying to trade with the Margex link down below, and you'll get a couple $100 in deposit bonuses if you do sign up with my link. So I left it down there for you. Go ahead and check it out. But like I said before, this thing could be in a position in which it can see some growth. So let's talk about why. Well, what we can see here is that Doge has actually been putting in some extremely bullish bottom signals. Okay. Now the majority of these bottom signals are purely structural. What I mean by that is it's putting in structurally sound bullish, formations and structures and things of that nature. And people can call it fairy dust and all this shit, but it has a history of being accurate. What you can see here is that it has been holding extremely well, this ascending level of support. And from a macro-based perspective, this does seem like a solid level of liquidity in which the price is being supported by. I don't see a reason as to why we would see the price absolutely capitulate through that. It does seem as if it's doing well. Now, as it's been building on this line, what you can see is we've been putting in a consistent stream of double bottoms. What you can see here is one very similar here, one very similar here, one very similar here, right? From a macro sense, one very similar here. And whenever you're putting in these double bottoms, it just goes to show that these key levels of liquidity are holding up extremely well, and the bulls are stepping in when they need to step in. And what we can see is actually one of these double bottoms was enacted just over the last few weeks. We put in this double bottom here. Look at this. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Now, where did we have the MLR, the mid-level of resistance? Right here. That means you're going to draw your line in. Boom. Okay. This is how you get your breakout target. You're going to then take that line and apply it above the MLR. Where do we go? This is the breakout target. Breakout target's at 10.3. We got all the way up to 10.5, meaning that this thing did make the move that it needed to when it needed to. It reached its breakout target. So not only is it putting in the structural formations, it's using these structural formations and actually reaching these key levels of resistance and the take profit zones and the overall breakout points in which you would expect it to. And all of those things are extremely bullish signs. Now, another thing to consider is that these things aren't even bullish just to the upside. They're bullish to the downside. Look at how we had this MLR here. Look at how this is our little mid-level of resistance zone. And this is where Doge's price came back down to try to hold some support after getting that breakout. It broke out, hit its take profit level, and then came back down to this key level of resistance, and now is trying to flip it into support for continuation. These are all bullish indicators, and whenever something's doing like this, like all of this bullish formation, creating all of these bullish structures towards the bottom side of a market, to me it says, oh, it could be positioning itself for a pretty decent move to the upside. But how do we get to a 150% move to the upside? That's the key question. Well, what I'm paying attention to is what we're seeing forming here. Okay, what we're seeing forming here. What you can see here is that we put in this support and this zone of support here. Okay, so we can see that and we can see that. We had this double bottom here, we had this double bottom here, and we had this double bottom here. Now, I know we had this huge spike up right here. I don't really talk or consider this all too much because this was a very quick wick to the upside, especially on the weekly charts, that didn't really substantiate to anything. The majority of our true liquidity was, kind of below this 10-cent level roughly. So I'm not as worried about this, but if you do want to factor this in, it does change things a little bit. But what you can see is that as we put in these consistent little W shapes and these W bottoms and double bottoms, it puts in a very obvious macro double bottom. Okay, it's hard to say maybe notice at first, but the harder you look, the more you can tell that we are seemingly putting in what could be, again, a macro double bottom. And the way in which we're acting right now, the fact that we are putting in this resistance here, the fact that we have this, the fact that we have this support, and this support, and we've broken back up to this key level of resistance tells me that if we see Doge's price successfully break above 10.7. Let's just call it 11 cents just to give it a little bit extra room. Let's say it breaks above 11 cents. I think we could enact on this full breakout to the upside for Doge, which does again give us this price target all the way up towards 22 cents. How is that? Because we're taking the distance from, again, our MLR down to our key zone of support. And when you apply that to the top side of that MLR or your mid-level of resistance, it gives you your breakout target, again, around 22 to 23 cents, which from where we are right now is about roughly 160 to 150% to the upside. Now, again, it's a lot of speculating. That's why I've been saying since the beginning of the video, under the right conditions, there's a lot that can happen. There's a lot that can change. There's a lot of bad shit that can go, that can happen and go wrong just in the span of a couple days, right? So I'm not saying that I think that is what's going to happen. I'm just saying that if this thing breaks above 11 cents, that's within the realm of possibilities. And for those of you Doge holders who still are adamant that it is going to do well, that's your door of opportunity. That's what you need to be looking for, is that break of 11 cents. Because then it puts you in position to see that push back up to 17, to see that push up towards 22, and who knows how far it can go from there, because then you have the fact that you're starting to interact at that point nearly with your 618 to 786 zone. So does this key level of resistance pull the price from 22 all the way up to 26? Does it turn that 150% gain into a 200% gain? Do you see what I mean? And so because of that, yes, I do get the hype. I do see what people mean whenever they say that this thing does look like it's cooking right now. Even though it's not a position that's very big for me, I don't hold a lot of Doge and I don't follow Doge very closely. I can see why people do think it will do well, especially with how much bottoming out formations and structure we are seeing towards the bottom side at this given point, okay? So watch extremely closely what happens here. Watch if this thing's able to break 11 cents. If it's able to break 11 cents, again, I think that the break towards 20 to 22 cents is within the realm of possibilities, and, it becomes much more likely at that point. So if you would like me to update you guys about Doge, let you know my thoughts, where it can go and more, put it down in the comments below. It's not necessarily something that I want to cover a ton, but maybe once or twice a week is possible if you guys do want to see it. But with that in mind, of course, that is going to be about it for today's video. Of course, I hope you guys did enjoy. Make sure that you do go check out Margex if you do want to trade, and I will see you all next time. Peace out, everybody.